In 1993, the North Dakota Department of Transportation conducted a feasibility study to evaluate alternatives for widening the bridge west of Newtown to accommodate current and anticipated traffic demands. The study concluded consideration of a new replacement structure. In 2001, after further study by the North Dakota Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration, it was determined that the second Forebears Bridge near Newtown would be replaced with a new, wider structure. Beginning in 2002, the third Forebears Bridge was designed with the cooperation of the three affiliated tribes. Construction began in 2003 and was completed in July of 2005. Work on Highway 23 was completed and the new bridge opened to traffic in early September 2005. Dedication ceremonies were held in early October 2005.
Well, personally for me, I think I really like the bridge site. I think it's one of the most picturesque bridge sites I've ever been on. And, I'm proud, when this thing's done, everyone's going to be really proud of what they've left behind because it's in such a picturesque setting. And I've really enjoyed meeting the people around here. People like me travel around a lot, you meet all kinds, and it's been a very open, friendly community. And I'm glad to see so many of the local folks working on the project. I think that's great. I think the local folks should be involved in a project like this, Well, the first thing right off that I see that's going to be an improvement is the fact you've got a bridge of the sidewalk that's going to link the communities. I mean, that in and of itself is, in my mind, the best impact to the local. I mean, you'll have a continuity of community. They have a walkway that they'll be able, they have a hike and bike trail on the east side that runs out from Newtown. They should be able to connect that here with this community on the other side. And that would be great, I would think. I think the local folks will really enjoy that. I'm a walker, so I would be using it myself. Well, it's going to be a big difference, big change in the way things look. I think the fact that the community was involved in some of the context-sensitive details that are going into the bridge, I think that's a trend you're going to see more often, and I think it's probably long overdue. Having a method by which the community actually can have a stake and feel like they really are part of the structure, and I think they will when this is done because of all the amenities that are being put on the bridge.
I wanted to talk about the design for the bridge, and a group of us, Ed Hall had asked a number of us to represent the Mandan, the Hidatsa, and the Arikara, and to do some historical medallions for the bridge. And I was a member of the Mandan group, and we chose a number of things. One of them was to show, there were branches of the Mandan, and two still exist, Nupta and Nuitari. And then there were about three more. And on the bridge we have three of them, and I'm not sure how to pronounce the third one. But these were Mandan subgroups, and they each had their own dialect. They weren't clans. Within them there were clans. I'm not sure what they were called, but they were Nuita had their own dialect, and the Nuptari had their own dialect, and they lived in different villages. So these were originally probably at the Mandan Bismarck area, where there were 9 villages there, and each of them had their own, there may have been a couple which were Nuita, a couple which were Nuptari, but they had their own dialects in that area. And after smallpox in the late 70s, they were reduced to 3 villages, the 9, and moved up to be near the Hidatsa, which had 3 villages along the Missouri River and the Knife River. And it became, the smallpox was so damaging to the tribe, they ended up with 2 villages, and the 2 villages were the Nuita and the Nuptari villages along the Missouri River, Knife River. These two, and then that one design which shows the three subgroups on the top is one of the Mandan villages, which was called the second village of the Mandan. And this drawing was done by Little Owl, and he was also, his name was Sitting Rabbit, but he was also called Little Owl. He died a long time ago. He was an elderly man. But the name is still around. Right? The Historical Society got him to draw some pictures, and that's one of the pictures that's on the bridge. In fact, we have two of them on the bridge that he did. The three names across the top, and this is the three subgroups of the Mandan tribe. As I said, there were a couple others. And the other picture that was done by Little Owl or Sitting Rabbit was the buffalo hunt, and this was such an important part of Mandan culture, Mandan, how they lived. They used to have an area where they ran buffalo over the edge of a cliff. Yes. Yeah. Anyway, and they'd herded them into a corral down there, and that's where they butchered and they got their buffalo. But this would be when buffalo came near the village that they were able to do that. The buffaloes in this, the hunters in this area, you can see that they had snowshoes, and they built a little corral around, and you see that in this. Here's the little corral, and this is the hunters. They had horseshoes, and they moved them over, and this is where the buffalo jump was. But these were important parts of the history of the Mandan. And the third one is the trade center. And the Mandan were agricultural, and they grew 4 major crops, the women did. The women owned all of the, they maintained the gardens and they grew them. Corn, they had 9 varieties of corn. They had soft corn and they had hard corn. And beans, they had a number of varieties of beans. Corn, beans, squash. There were summer squash and winter squash that they grew, and sunflowers. And these were along the floodplain of the Missouri River. So when we lost our river and we lost the floodplain, we lost a lot, because this is where they didn't have to worry about rain, because they had the floodplain, which was really the best place along the Missouri to have a garden. So once we moved up from the river bottom. You can't grow gardens out on the prairie. So it was a real big change for us. This was a center, the Mandans, and then there were 3 major centers, trade centers, and there were some minor ones also. But the major centers along the Missouri were with the Mandan Hidatsa along Knife River, and prior to that, the Heart River area, Heart River, Missouri River area. And to the south, the Arikaras had a major trade center. But the other one was on the Dalles in Oregon. So there were, this is where nomadic tribes all came to trade. And these were the Sioux and the Assiniboines and the Crows, and a lot of the tribes. The Kiowas traded with the Crows, and the Crows came and traded with the Mandans. It is a major trade center for the area, and the English and some of the groups from the French came down. But at that time, the Missouri River was the passageway, and so you always ended up, at the Mandan village. And if you read any of the explorers who came through, they always stopped at the Mandan village. And the Lewis and Clark, they used the Mandan village as a center, and they established their camp right across from one of the Mandan villages, the closest Mandan village. But they did that because they could get corn there, and they could get their supply of food, you know, once they left St. Louis and came up the river. That's why the Trade Center is really, really an important thing. And I think that once the migration came of homesteaders, you know, people got moved out of the Knife River area and were established at like a Fishhook village. And I think this is probably the saddest part of our history, and isn't something that you can even think about or talk about, because it was so bad. The government moved in. They couldn't go and do what they normally did. So, you know, the Trade Center kind of died out in that period of time, and it isn't something that I like to remember, that era. But there were two forebears. There were the Mandan forebears, and he was really an outstanding leader. He was killed by smallpox, and I know his last speech is one that's often quoted, you know, in which he said, "We befriended the white man, and this is what they brought us, and never trust them again," you know, because what they've done to us. But he was an outstanding leader. You know, and leaders at that time didn't accumulate a lot of material goods. He was a poor man. He was a poor man by choice, because the people elected him the leader. Because everything he had was given away. Material goods were not important to him. His leadership was the important part. So, you know, giving to relatives, and one of the things that the Mandans did was to take care of your clan aunts and your clan fathers. And that's where all of his material goods went to them. That's what they say he got his name, was because they said he was a fighter. He would, if you see he has what do you call that when you put down like a calendar? I don't know what it's called, but he puts his history on there, and one of them, a famous picture of him fighting a Cheyenne. He had him get off his horse, and they fought, and he won. His brother had been killed, and that's one of the things that he always said he was going to get the person who killed his brother. And this is one of the things, I think he walked into his brother's enemy's lodge or teepee, and he killed him. He was a very brave man. We met for over a year. We went through ideas about what kinds of things we would put on the bridge. And we came up with these 4 designs that kind of gave some idea of who Mandans were. And the group consisted of Edwin Benson, Luella Young Bear, Wanda Shepherd, and Rex Fox. Seems like we had, and another, let me see, Sadie Mann. We were the group that chose these 4 designs to go on the bridge.
I've seen some drawings of this new bridge, and it looks very beautiful. Oh, people say they're scared to drive across the bridge, so they never go that way. But I don't think that it's going to change things. Oh, certainly the construction of a new bridge is going to bring a lot of temporary help in the area. But once it's built, I don't know how it'll be any different than the way it is now, other than, well, what we've already gone over. I don't think there's been too many accidents on the bridge, but it's been inconvenient for the large loads.
I guess I've liked every place I've been. I've lived at least 1 year in 8 different states, so I'm kind of a roamer or rover, whatever. They used to say that the Mandans were very sedentary and the Hiratsas tended to be nomadic and very definitely have Hiratsa tendencies. I'm always curious to see who's living on the other side of the hill and what they're like and so forth. The bridge we have, is a hazard. I'm surprised that, I know there's crosses on there, but I'm surprised that more people haven't been killed. The part that was at Elbow Woods was built back in 1934 when, cars were a lot different, speeds were a lot different and so forth. So I guess I'm more concerned about a big, safe bridge. I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't build a one-way, 2-lane bridge each direction, but bridges really weren't, I can't remember too many Hiratsas or Mandans or Rikras that built bridges across the Missouri way back, the days before, back in the old days. So I guess, somehow the idea of, making a culturally relevant bridge is kind of blows my mind. The Lost Bridge down there at Little Missouri, that really kind of had more sentimental value to me than, this does too. But I don't know. I think it's, we need to build a safe bridge at the best cost we can. Yeah, I remember that old Lost Bridge when there was nothing more than what we used to call a truck trail going up there. It definitely was a lost bridge for a long time before they finally put something in there. I remember crossing that thing when we were moving from Lucky Mound to up in the Hart Butte area. My folks put everything that they could into a hay rack with a team of horses, and my dad had a couple of saddle horses tied on the side, and we took off. I think I was 7 years old when, the end of my second grade when we moved across it.
So yeah, life goes on, history goes on, and I don't know if people realize it today, but they lived in historic times. They was, they seen a new bridge built, and you look back 70 years and you see the Forebears Bridge built in 38 or thereabouts, and you see the crowd of people who took part in that, and I'm sure that was a momentous occasion for them, and just a few months ago or so we took part in a momentous occasion. So yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah, that I've heard from other people, working here at the tribal office, and then they made the announcement that they were going to dynamite the middle portion of that bridge, and that a lot of our people went over there from the tribal office, and when that happened, I guess there was a few tears shed. I didn't get to see it. I forget what I was doing, but maybe I should have, I was thinking about it, but well, it's a thing of the past, but it served its purpose, it served its purpose well, and yeah, there'll be some memories about it, and proud to say I was able to cross it, and after a while you become second nature, but we've had other bridges like Lost Bridge down there that I used to fish by that has a little bit more memories for me, but yeah, things come and go, we've kind of accepted it. I think our people are pretty pragmatic or practical about things and progressive in their ways, and resilient, I guess you would say.
But that new bridge now with even with Newtown as big as that's getting to be, and the traffic is so much more than what it was when we lived there too. That I know my daughter even said now that it takes quite a bit longer to go and get the mail than she used to have to do when years back before it got too big. She said that the traffic to get across them, the main part is getting to be pretty risky now, or it takes a long time to get across. So, and before you could drive all around just about any place, and I drove a school bus out there for 10 years too, and used to come both schools and drive a school bus through Newtown, and it was always pretty good. Now it's a little different now than what it was. When we go out now, you gotta watch for more traffic and get in on the right place, and they don't have like mine at the stoplights and the stop signs, and not do too much. Mostly it's right away there, yield traffic.
Well, it's just a changing of the times. When we looked forward to the new bridge, we thought, my, this is going to be great, and the cars can drive so much faster and safer and everything, and that's kind of the way it is with this new bridge now, with flow of traffic and all the vehicles being so much heavier and buses carrying like sometimes 60 passengers at a time. And with the casino over there, it's just a good thing because traffic has increased more than 50%. No, everything has its time, and 50 years is a good time. The new bridge will be great because it too will have its day. It's going to be beautiful. It is.
I'm pleased they're building a new bridge, and I think it's going to be. It looks like it's going to look nice. It looks. I'm kind of amazed to watch it and seeing they're able to do it. And I thought, how in the world they're going to build a bridge? But they say they're doing it, you know. And they say, well, they're putting this in first, and then they'll put that in first. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to being there, because basically I've always seen that we need a bigger bridge. And I think, boy, when them semis go across, they must just about scrape the sides, you know, because you don't dare to get too far over. And but I guess my feeling is, you know, there's a lot of nostalgia, as you can probably hear, when it's the fun. And that's many, many years ago now. I'm 70 years old now. I was probably started playing around the bridge when I was 11 or 12, when old enough to get on horseback and get away, you know, and our parents not being worried. And but I guess it'll be, probably when it's gone, it'll be just memories.
You go down to the grocery store here. I've been down to the grocery store at 8 o'clock or so in the morning sometimes to get some milk or breakfast food or something. And I got to wait in line at the 2 counters. Which other town can you go in like that and have to wait in line at the counters? And there must be about maybe 10 or 12 people working over here at the Super Value and about 10 or 12 working at the Jack and Jill store. You go to any other town like about this size and they haven't got near the business. You blame right, it has been good for Cenex. Been good for Super Value and Jack and Jill too.
You know, we've talked about taking part of the portal, or the part where as you enter the bridge now, there's that overhead, and taking that and putting it over, say, the Lewis and Clark walking path, for example, so that future generations can say, yeah, we're walking through a part of what used to be the Four Bears Bridge. I understand it's a very costly venture to even consider, but I think it's worthy of some consideration in the whole process of removal of the bridge. So I think the new bridge, of course, will serve you know, the traveling public much safer, and I understand that I think it'll still be called the Four Bears Bridge. I don't know if that's exactly right, but I'm sure that there will be enough public sentiment to see that it's still the Four Bears Bridge. It's really nice designs, and so that'll be great. I think we're certainly a 21st century bridge, you know.